Hey, what is going on? I'm Corey and I run a successful AI automation agency. In the last 5 months, we have scaled this agency to well over $50,000. So today what I want to do is I want to touch base on an AI agency, how you can run it, how you can get started with zero experience, how to actually hire your first employee, and really to get to this stage with zero coding experience. So I don't have any coding experience. I spent about a month and a half learning make.com, and everything else and all the success comes from hiring employees and leveraging that arbitrage there. And really, the one thing that is a key differentiator between why I've been successful is my models for staffing. So I thought today what we're going to do, we're going to cover how to actually hire your first employee. So let's jump into it. So like I said, I do run a automation agency focused on custom no-code automation tools, everything from LinkedIn, outreach to building scraping systems to building, growth systems. So whether we're doing CRMs, whether we're doing onboarding sequences, we sort of do it all. The problem with this is I found when I started doing this business model, I could learn N8N, I could learn, a CRM system, I can learn all these, but how quick could I learn all of them? How quick can I learn how to build a scraping system and learn make.com and the automation? And this is a very common cause that we have, especially people that don't have a lot of time. If you're looking at, we have a CRM system here, and then maybe we have like N8N here. That's a bad N. And then maybe if we go scraping or all these different demands, this might take 10 hours to get a very good grasp on it. This might take 20. This might take, 40. So we can see as this adds up, someone who doesn't either do this full time, that's not a lot of time to actually get all this sorted. So the standard model that everyone, for every business, it's been a standard throughout the whole industries, is we hire for sales first, we hire for marketing first, we hire for ops last, right? And it's this very sequential type of hiring. When it comes to the AI agency, sometimes it's not possible. If we hire for sales first and we get this one done, do we have the time to actually learn all this stuff? If we sign our first client within, let's say first week, which is how long I took to get my first client. My first client was, we had a whole bunch of books. It was 94 to be precise, 94 books. And we needed to turn this into a knowledge base for an AI agent they were building. So they had all these in a Google Drive, and they needed to end up in an Airtable. And from there, we had to get the books, we had to read them, we had to pass them, we had to, understand what was in them. Then we had to use ChatGPT to describe them and then bring it there. I stepped into the automation space, and within a week, I had some make.com experience, but within a week, this was my first job. And it's that thing where it's like, well, I need the social proof, but do I know how to build this? And I sort of took it on, and it was a nightmare. I will tell you that. I learned very quickly that building was not for me. My whole background has always been in business. Before this, I ran teams. I ran strategy and operations for a large corporation. So when it came to the building, it just was not my forte. And I meet a lot of people like that. So going back to the model, if we hire for sales first, then how long can we maintain this ops? It's okay if we're doing, stuff we know 100%, but then it becomes, would you choose 1 week to get your first client for something you don't really know? Or would you wait, 4 to 8 weeks getting a client for something that you do know? And this is a huge lag. A 4 to 8 weeks worth of revenue lost. It's quite a large one. So my option was, I did this route. I took on clients as quickly as possible, and in doing that, I gained social proof very quickly, and then the client started scaling up and up from there. So by the time I hit this 8-week mark, I'd already made 20K. So when we come down to this, that's sort of the decision you guys have, right? You can do a productized service, so a service that, it's the same build over and over. So an emailing system is a perfect example. That is a productized service. It is the same thing over and over. And sure, you could learn that 100%. But if you're going for this customized solution, which a lot of our now day and age is, with this whole industry, there's tools, constantly new tools coming out. When you talk to business owners, they want, X, Y, Z. It's never jumping on a sales call and they're like, yes, you have a productized service, you have a product, give me that one. And that's sort of a very big issue in the industry. So there has to be some sort of customized solution to it. But the catch-22 is, to do this customized solution, we need a lot of this stuff to be built. So when we're going back to the regular flow, this doesn't really work, does it? Instead, what we did and what I discovered was the best option was we do it like this. We reverse it. So agency, service-based businesses, the AI space, especially hiring for ops, if you're going down that route and you don't want to be a solo builder, is one of the best decisions I ever made. Proof of the pudding is when I got my first retainer. It was about 2.5K per month retainer. Now, I was only meant to be doing, I believe it was 10 hours a month for these people. So it was scheduled to be 10 hours, which works out to be about 1 to 2 flows every week. Right. That's how I sort of went it out. So 1 per week. Now, if we go on this 10 hours and we go 1 flow per week, what actually happened is this 1 flow per week actually took me around 21 hours because I'm so experienced. I'm happy to admit that. I didn't have a lot of experience with the building. I was still learning. Like I said, I was a week in. I didn't know how to do a lot of this stuff. And it was about 21 hours to finish this, and it was constant stress. I had messages and, why are we so late? Why are we so behind schedule? Why are we just everything? And I didn't enjoy sitting at my desk and working under these conditions. It wasn't until I took a second one on, another retainer. I lost this one, obviously. And I took a second one on and it repeated again, right? The next one was actually a 3K retainer. There was a delay, took a long time. There was a lot of errors on my end, but it was the same thing. This time to complete the build was enormous. So when I then broke it down, I said, okay, well, if this takes, 21 hours of my time to do it, and in terms of outreach, I think I was working out to about every 14. No, it wasn't every 14. It was every 11 hours, I would sign one client. So when I spent 11 hours of, recording videos, sending it to people and everything, this 11 hours was one client, which equaled, 2.5K. So then it got me thinking, okay, well, if this is 10 hours and I got someone experienced to do it, and they're 10 hours, I was paying $15 per hour. That equals $150. Right? So now I not only have a buffer between these two, but I'm also signing this. So by hiring someone, my profit margin was about 70%. 70% profit margin, which would equal $1,700 for the profit margin. Plus, I was signing a new client at about the 2K. Let's draw. Right? So we're at $3,700. Now, in doing this meant that I could do $3,700 in rev without doing the building. And this was really my aha moment. I thought, okay, so if I don't have to put that stress on, if I can get someone more efficient, my time either goes into learning how to build and reducing that 21 hours to 10 hours, or I lean on my strengths, I hire someone, and I then go purely into sales and try to close more deals. I'll make that more efficient, and then they can sort of handle the client builds. And that's how I got started, really. A lot of it in this doing an agency rather than actually building the stuff. A lot of people recommend learn like one platform, N8N, but from my experience, as I got this client was this was an onboarding sequence. This first client, this one was Zapier flows of multiple CRM things that they just needed sorting out. So even if I had to spend 20 hours learning N8N, all of that information was completely irrelevant to these two retainer jobs. And that's what I'm sort of finding in this industry. You sort of need to have experience across all of them, which I would say now I'm pretty confident in all of them. But I mean, that's what, a 6-month lag between everything. So that's how I learned that our first hire should be operations. For the agency, it should be operations. In terms of marketing and sales, a lot of people learn this stuff. It's very easy. I mean, I would argue that it is a lot easier to learn sales and marketing than it is this operations side, unless you have some sort of IT background in it. A lot of marketing and sales are very human focused. You could look at what would you find attractive, look internally, what do I find attractive? And then you'd have a pretty good grasp on your marketing. And in sales, how would I like to be taught? How would I like to be spoken to? What would convince me to purchase this product? Okay, benefits. And that's sort of a lot easier to get your head around than this operation. So that's how I learned that we had to run the ops first. And then our second hire, we should be doing marketing. Once we've got the operations, we should be able to scale fairly quickly from there. When you're learning it in a curve, it's sort of going like this. When we have the ops in section, we start like going really high up, right? Because we're just getting the social proof along here. And then once we get the social proof, we follow through with here. This is the point here that we want the marketing to kick in and to skyrocket, right? Sales, sure, this is closing. If I can spell right, closing the sales, that's fine. But our next biggest bottleneck that we will have is you will have a builder. Maybe you have a full-time or 30 hours per week. If they're efficient and they can knock off one of these, you then have 20 hours capacity per week. So what we want to do is we want to use the marketing to fill this, to then turn it to 0 hours per week. If you hire for sales, it's the same thing, right? You aren't driving sales in this person. Maybe a salesperson here, this is a salesman. He's sort of sitting here at a table, and then there's just an empty chair. There's no one there to actually close. We can't close someone and then give them to the builder. So we would have a double capacity issue, I guess. We have a builder then is too free. Like they're not doing anything. We have wasting resource. We also have a salesperson where you're not funneling clients or people into his view and his amazing speaking, selling skills. So then it sort of makes it really pointless, right? So this is why we hire the marketing. This at the time being, it will be me, and then we hire the marketing, bring this down to 0, and then we put people on the chair for our business. Traditionally, when we do this, these are very old school way of doing it, obviously, because sales previous to this sort of newer generation style of business, sales was very heavily focused on like BDMs, business development managements, and they would be not only this SDR role that we have now, where it's like I will just outreach to these people, and then we have closers, you close on the deal. It was very much the BDMs do all of that, and it still does. A lot of businesses still follow this model. Banks is a very good example. You have BDMs for your banks, but it could work for automation if you could find the right person for that, if they're happy to be a full customer management. However, you still don't want them to go first, right? You don't want them to give you a crap load of work and you can't do it. It's easier at the time being that you just do the sales and then we funnel the marketing into us to really skyrocket up here. And then at about this point here, you sort of reduce load and get people, to fill in that spot. The other thing that isn't in this flow, which I would put around here, is, drum roll, project manager. I have a project manager. She's wonderful. It allows me to step back a lot on the business. So although we're sort of doing a lot of this stuff, the project manager will then, we sign a client, and then this project manager and our ops person are talking. They're, the communication back and forth. They're getting details from the clients. And really that would sort of be your second hire, which would sit around here. So we need the project manager, but that'll be another time for another video. At the moment, we're focusing on the ops person. And that is really how I'd structure the business going forward. Your first person should be ops. It should be maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 people. You would want to do some sort of casual, right? So you want an on-call ops person. On-call. I need to get one of those pens to draw properly. We need because when we're starting, unless your capacity is really full, which if you're not doing the ops, chances are you haven't got full capacity. You'd want this person to just start at maybe 10 hours per week, and then switch them to 20 and then 30. So we need them to be on call, which then means ideally the best place to get these people would be Upwork or Fiverr, or you could go on something like Indeed. There's a D. But you need just a contractor, essentially, is the best way to do it. As we get down to here, you'll find that it probably would work out cheaper to keep someone on the books full time, but this is only if you're doing customized solutions. If you're doing productized solution, then there's no reason why you can't just keep ops and running this model for every build, because as we get these builds, this might be 3 hours to do per build, and it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. They can just come in and do this one, this one, this one, this one. There's not a lot to it. When we go into this one, it might be step 1, and then we might need step 3, then 2, then 4. And this may be, we need to connect a CRM. Okay, now we need to look at their enrichment process, or we may need to do something else that's not simple, just step, step, step. A lot of it is very consultancy, problem solving, where this one is sort of like this. This one will be like, okay, wait, we got to hold here for a second. Okay, let's do this one and this one. Okay, now let's go back and connect to this up because, maybe we needed extra login details or something. So when we're doing the customize, ideally, we'll have an ops person for 1 or 2 to start with. And then as we sort of branch out to different systems, where to put my systems out here, we'd obviously have, one person that's specialized here, one that does CRM, one that does scraping, and then you just sort of add the contractors onto it. But this would more than likely, as we get to a later stage in the business, it would sort of look like this. So we have one main full-time person because our business is running around N8N, and then we start hiring, casuals or contractors for the other side businesses to really tie in, and then they sort of work with the main person like this. So I hope that clarifies a lot of it. I have a lot of drawings. That's what I'm looking at right now. But essentially, yeah, to summarize, looking at the traditional model doesn't really work. If you're hiring your first person and you want to run an AI agency, we want to look at your ops first. We want to make sure that you do the marketing, you do the sales, and that our operations has capacity to handle all this influx coming in. So if you enjoyed that and these type of content, let me know. Like and subscribe. I will be opening a school community in the short future about running an AI agency, so keep a lookout for that. And I will see you all in the next video.